Chirago complex, second floor, room 223. We also have another branch in Ugolobi. It's at Spring Road, opposite Ugolobi Medical Center, where Absa Bank is also. It's just opposite Absa Bank at a building called Chisatia Complex. We are on the third floor, and the room is 308. That's where we are located. I am here to talk about tooth-related issues or teeth-related issues. I am sure at one point in your life you had a tooth problem, and you've had questions in you that why do we have such problems, where do they come from, and how are we managing them? How are we going about them? Now, one of the tooth problems happens to be tooth sensitivity. Many people have had sensitivity, and you've asked yourselves, where does sensitivity come from? Where does it come from? How do I come to have, how do I start, why do I have sensitive teeth? How do my teeth start becoming sensitive? And it becomes a weird experience when you feel they are sensitive, you cannot drink or hot, cold, you cannot eat sugar, all that kind of stuff. But today we want to talk about that sensitivity, that particular topic, sensitivity. There are many causes of sensitivity, of which tooth decay is part of them, it's one of them. Tooth decay causes sensitivity. There is what we call attrition. Now, some of these terms, I'm mentioning them, you've never heard about them, or you've heard about them, but I'll go deeper in them. I'll keep on explaining them as you're having different sessions, because we're not only going to have one session. There is what we call abrasion, there is what we call abfraction, and all those ones can cause tooth sensitivity. Now, I've mentioned a couple of them, a couple of causes of sensitivity, but today I'll concentrate on what we call tooth decay as one of the causes of tooth sensitivity. But before I go any further, I first want to talk about what causes the tooth decay. Then later I'll talk about where sensitivity comes in from. Yeah. So, tooth decay, where does it come from? How does somebody start having tooth decay? Where does it come from? How does it start? Now, in your body, as a human being, you've been born with microorganisms, specifically bacteria, if I am to be specific. And these bacteria have a scientific name. We call them normal flora. Now, these bacteria are for defense. They are for purposes of defense. And we also have them in the mouth. But now, the only challenge with these bacteria, they are supposed to be kept in one constant environment. They are supposed to live in one constant environment, and it's not supposed to be altered. The moment it is altered, they become harmful. That's one problem they have. They are supposed to keep they are supposed to be kept, they are supposed to live in a constant environment, no change. It's supposed to be constant. Now, the moment that environment is altered or shifted, they become harmful. Now, in the mouth, like I told you, we also have them in the mouth. Yeah. So, what happens if I eat food, normal food, and then I leave it for so long on my teeth? A time comes and that food sticks on my teeth. It becomes too hard to a level that even my toothbrush cannot remove that tooth. Doesn't matter how much or how strong or how vigilant I can brush, that food will not get off. Now, when that food sticks on your teeth, already the environment is altered through which these bacteria live. The environment is already changed. And remember, when it is changed, they become what? Harmful. So what happens? These microorganisms, the bacteria, are going to start fermenting that food, breaking it down. And one of the end products of that fermentation, or the breaking down of the food, is acid. Now, that acid that is produced, the moment it is produced in your mouth, it goes on removing minerals from your tooth or from your teeth. Many people have thought, and they have always asked questions, usually when they come for treatment, and then they're like, can I have a look at that microorganism that is eating up my tooth? I want to see it. It has eaten it, and now it is nowhere. I only have just pieces of it. Can I have a look at it? Or is it still there? Sometimes when you're doing the cementing, they happen to ask questions that, have you seen the bacteria that is eating up my tooth, the microorganism that is eating up my tooth? Have you seen it? So they think of it as one that can go on your tooth and start damaging it physically. Yet that is not so. What the bacteria contribute, they ferment the food and provide and produce acid from that tooth. Now, what the acid does, the acid goes on removing minerals from the tooth, what we call demineralization. Now, if you look at this tooth, for example, it's like a bone. In fact, it's not like, but it is a bone, like any other part, any other bone in your body. But it is the hardest bone in your body. And it is made up of minerals. That means if it becomes insufficient of minerals, it will become weak eventually. So, the other acid that is produced as a result of the breakdown of the food, it keeps on removing minerals from this tooth. And when it removes the minerals from this tooth, the tooth becomes weak. The tooth structure becomes weak. And therefore, it becomes subject to breaking down. It can be subjected. The moment it is subjected to pressure, it might not be that much, but because it has already become weak by reason of the minerals that have been depleted, that have been removed in the process in what we call demineralization, this tooth becomes weak and it can easily break down if subjected to any form of pressure. Sometimes you might not need to subject them to pressure, but because a tooth is made up of those minerals, the more minerals are removed, the more it becomes weak and can easily break down, even without that much pressure. Now, if you look at this tooth again, we have this outer coating here, what we call the enamel. And you have the inner part there, the second layer down, as you're going down, is called the dentine. And you have also the innermost part that's called the pulp. So on top here, on the outside, you have what we call the enamel. Then, as you're going down, below the enamel, we have what we call the dentine, just 1 millimeter from the enamel. And then, as you're going down, we have what we call the pulp. Those are the 3 parts of the crown of the tooth. So we have the crown, we have the enamel, we have the dentine, and we have the pulp. or in this portion of the tooth that you can see in your mouth. There is that portion of the tooth that you can see in your mouth that is white. It has 3 layers. It has the enamel, it has the dentine, and it has the pulp, right? We also have the roots in here, but I would like to first concentrate on this part here without the roots, what you cannot see, because the roots you cannot see them. Let me concentrate first on what you can see. Now, like I've told you, now the tooth has broken down, minerals have been removed because of the acid that is produced by the working of the microorganisms. Microorganisms themselves don't produce, but they participate in the production of the acid by breaking down the food that is sticking on your teeth. Now, this outer part here cannot sense anything. I believe at one point you've heard about something called a nerve in life. You have. And that nerve is responsible for sensing pain. If that nerve is irritated, it will cause a certain the impulse. There's what we call impulse or flow of if it was electricity, we call it flow of current. Now that a nerve is irritated, if it is irritated by anything from the outside environment, it can be a drink, it can be something to eat, and then it goes direct in contact with that nerve. There will be communication, there will be information that will be taken from that nerve to the brain for you to sense that there is pain. Okay? Now, in this outer part here, we don't have any nerve that can communicate with the brain for you to feel pain. That's why somebody can have a hole in their tooth, and in the first place they might not feel the sensitivity, yet the hole is there. It can only tell you that the hole has not gone so deep to the level which has nerves in it, what we call the dentine. It has nerve endings in it. So when the decay goes down and it reaches that inner second layer, what we call the dentine, because it has nerve endings, now that is where our emphasis is today. That is where we are talking about the sensitivity today. You can never have sensitivity if the decay, or if there is no way the triggering factor can reach the dentine. You can never have sensitivity. It can't happen. Reason being, this outer layer here, what we call the enamel, does not have any nerve ending. Anything that can communicate with the brain that I have pain, that there is pain, something has come here, something has been triggered, it's not there. But when you go to the dentine, the second layer, as you're going down, it has nerve endings. Now, that is why somebody can have a hole, but then there is no pain, but yet the hole is there. But as the hole is progressing, they will start having the sensitivity. Why? Why do you have the sensitivity? It is because this hole has gone deep to the level that it has reached the place or the layer that has the nerves in it that can communicate with the brain for you to feel that form of sensitivity. I am hoping we are going together. Now, you'll forgive me for it is hard to explain it when it is not detailed like that, because we want to exhaust everything so you understand and your questions be answered well. So, I have my dentine, the hole has gone deep, and the inner part there after the enamel has been exposed. That is the part where sensitivity comes from. That is the part where you feel pain sometimes when you've eaten something hot, or you've taken a drink and it is cold. The reason that's why you feel that kind of sensitivity is because that hole has gone deep enough to reach the dentine, which has the nerves which can sense. Right? So, what happens? That second layer, the dentine, it can react to any changes in temperature because of the nerves in it. And because there are nerve endings, that's why you can feel that there is sensitivity, because the nerves can transfer information, they can send the information to the brain, and then you interpret it as pain, like as sensitivity, and that shock that comes in. Now, like I've told you, your tooth cannot be sensitive if there is no leakage to that layer we call that dentine, which has the nerves, which nerves can take the information to the brain to be interpreted as shock or as pain or as sensitivity. Yeah. So, somebody now is asking, you've been having a question, how does sensitivity come about? I am sure now you have a clue about where it comes about, how it comes about, and where does decay come from. Yeah. So, sensitivity. We have looked at how the hole gets to that layer, the dentine, which has nerves in it. Now, because it has nerves, anything that gets in contact with it can cause that reaction. It can cause that form of that shock, what we call the sensitivity. Anything that gets in contact with that layer that is below the enamel, because of the nerves in it, it can cause sensitivity because it has nerves in it. You get? That is why if we are to present sensitivity, we can do anything that prevents the leakage of fluid from the outside environment to the dentine, to that inner layer. Because what we don't want is anything to get in contact from the outside to get in contact with the dentine. So, what we do, we get desensitizers. We can have desensitizers, anything that can stop, that can quench that reaction, that can stop that reaction, that can stop that contact with the dentine. So, cements help us create a barrier between this layer here and the dentine, such that we do not have contact with that which has the nerves in it. That's what cement does. Yeah, I want to feel my tooth, my tooth, I want to feel my tooth, I want to put cement in my tooth. What does cement really do? Cement covers, it creates a barrier between the dentine and this outer part. It creates that layer that shields the dentine, such that fluids do not get in contact with it, food does not get in contact with it, and so if it is shielded, that means nerves will not be excited, they will not be triggered. There will be no communication with the nerves. The nerves will be kept safe from any irritation. Yeah. So that's what I can talk about briefly as far as sensitivity is concerned, though we still have much to talk about. But for today, you'll allow me stop there and get back to you in the next session. Thank you.